Oh,
there we go. Yeah. What's up, everyone?
Thank you for tuning in to episode 192 of the F and Marks podcast. I'm Jay.
And I am the brainless one.
As always.
And it's not just a gimmick, it's a lifestyle.
Yeah.
Quite a bit to get into this week.
Yeah.
I mean, oh wow, that was very emphatic, Jay.
Yeah.
Much better, thank you. We have quite a bit of news and notes that are coming around from the world of wrestling this week. We have a former WWE Divas champions, apparently or allegedly supposed to be returning to WWE broadcasting this week. And then there's rumors that there might not be the case. Also, a former NXT UK champion has a new role for the time being during the pandemic, which I think is actually a good move for him to, down the road kind of thing. You can let him, learn the stuff.
Yeah.
We also have a 5-star match this week
on television
in a very unorthodox way as well. We also had a return on SmackDown last night. We had a former WWE superstar who has been on the NXT broadcast team signing a new contract. And we are getting closer and closer to a card for Clash of Champions. Can't get it mixed up with the GOAT show from back in WCW days because WWE would not be smart enough to give us Clash of the Champions 13.
Or Halloween Havoc.
Or anything. But
except for War Games, but that's NXT. Thanks, Triple H.
Yeah. And speaking of NXT, we do have an announcement that we are having our next NXT takeover in a couple of weeks. It'll be on Sunday, October 3rd, I think, first, second, something like that. It's in October. Yeah. First Sunday in October. That's all I remember. I don't remember the number off the top of my head. But we are getting another NXT takeover. So a lot to get into this week.
Yeah.
So where do you want to start?
Honestly, I want to. I almost feel like off the top we need to talk about the damn parking lot brawl.
Okay, let's talk about
that. The best friends in Santana Ortiz put their freaking bodies on the line, and it was one of the most entertaining matches I've ever seen on TV. And you know me, how I go on and on about the Lord Steven Regal versus Finley parking lot brawl from WCW back in the days. This thing eclipsed it a million times over. It was fucking awesome. Trent getting thrown through the windshield of that car. It was not like fake glass. His back had all sorts of shit happened to it from that bump, and he was bleeding all over. Everybody was bleeding all over it. And they did a lot of unique things with the car, like putting him under the hood, and they kept on, the sitting senton and flips and all that crap. But in the end, it was like, holy shit, these guys all came out badass, and I just fucking loved it.
I'm pretty sure it's safe to say that that's probably going to end up getting you.
Yeah, good. No doubt. Yeah. No doubt. Monsef, what's up, man?
What's up, Monsef?
Yeah, so much great stuff with that. And then at the very end, that they swerve us just a bit, and who makes an appearance? Freshly squeezed Orange Cassidy to help out his best friends. It was fucking spectacular. And then at the end, Trent doing I think there's a slight variation on the name, but more or less he did a power bomb through plywood to end the match. It was fucking incredible.
I mean, I got to give it to all the guys that were involved. Just like Jay said, Pride and Powerful, best friends, all 4 of those guys went out there. They put on one hell of a fight. And I'll tell you right now, yes, matches like this, because a parking lot brawl is considered like a gimmicky match because you're not inside the wrestling ring and you're not, doing arm bars and shit like that for the most part. You're basically just going out there and beating the holy hell out of each other. And I'll tell you, those 4 guys went out there. They put on one hell of a performance. I was thoroughly entertained by it.
It didn't look like fake.
No, it didn't.
As Mick Foley said, he was like, "Oh yeah, those guys are going to be hurting for a few days after that one."
Yeah.
I mean, between getting hit with they weren't 2x4s, they might have been 1x4s, and having them break in half, and getting, I'm sure they did something like with the lead pipe and the the baton. Where they hit him in the stomach, so that's not quite as bad. But they took a lot of back bumps and hit each other on the back an awful lot. I forget which one it was bleeding from the elbow, Santana or Ortiz, and then the other one bleeding from the head. Beretta bleeding on his back and bleeding on his head, or actually got like an eye gash, and Chuck Taylor, I think, was bleeding too, but I just don't remember where it was, but I mean, kudos for these dudes putting their freaking bodies on the line to entertain the hell out of us. And then WWE trying to get on par with them, tries the Samoan street fight last night on SmackDown, and guess what?
Can I do it?
If they're not competition, you're not going to copy them. So obviously, WWE knows they are competition. They tried copying them, and it's just a poor excuse.
I mean,
nothing against the performers either.
No.
But it was a poor excuse of something to try to compete with what was seen on Wednesday.
To be fair, a lot of the product that WWE delivers is pretty sad and pathetic anyway. And so their attempt at trying to go head to head and try to do what AEW did this week.
They were attempting to one up, and they
yeah. Well, it's Vince McMahon. Vince McMahon's fucking retarded. And we just got to accept the fact that my Lord and Savior Vincent Kennedy McMahon is a fucking retard.
But one thing that did come out this week, Chris Jericho kind of was shredding WWE for the fact that they're still attempting to compete on Wednesdays nights. Jericho's going, look, you guys haven't beaten us in the demos ever, or I don't think they have ever, but beyond that, and it's they're once in a while beating them in overall audience, but for the most part, no. And Jericho's going, look, why don't you guys get 250,000 more viewers and get yourself more money by airing on Tuesday night? There's nothing wrong with that. That gives the wrestling fans a better shot. Fans will get to see what they want. And
I'm the person.
It's true.
And I'll tell you right now, as a wrestling fan, not as a WWE fan or an AEW fan, as a wrestling fan, I go to whatever one of the two shows has something better on between the two of them. So if there's something that intrigues me more on AEW, I'm going to be more inclined to watch that. And if there's something on NXT that I'm more inclined to watch, I'm going to be watching them. So when Drake Maverick was in the finals for the interim Cruiserweight Championship, that is what dragged me to NXT and wanted to watch that. Finn Balor and Adam Cole, baby! That's going to drag me over to NXT. If I know that Chris Jericho is going to be on commentary, all right, that's an entirely different ballgame. See, I want to be entertained. And I'm the type of person that I don't even care. And I am part of that demographic that the demo god is talking about. The goat of goats who has goated more than goats has ever goated in the history of goatdom. And I'll tell you, that's at this point, that's what I go to. And it was just kind of because this is kind of like a PG version of what we were going through back in the mid to late 90s when we had the Monday Night Wars between WCW and WWF.
And for me specifically, with the Wednesday Night War that they have going on right now, in my view, the two best wrestling shows on TV are on Wednesday night.
Although SmackDown typically is not a bad show either.
I'm not saying bad show. I'm talking the best shows, though, of the week are typically on Wednesday night. And the fact that Vincent Kennedy McMahon does not want to look like he's cutting and running because AEW keeps on kicking their ass. But, one thing, and this is for me, I mean, you always, like, what's it all about? It's all about presentation. What looks like a bigger, more impressive presentation right now? AEW at Daly's Place or the Performance Center with NXT? I mean, to me, hands down, Daly's Place looks 5 million times better on camera than Performance Center does. I even, like, maybe Thunderdome is better looking than...
Oh, I fucking love the Thunderdome.
Thunderdome looks great, but, like, all in all, I think AEW's been much better at presenting their product
100%
during the pandemic.
Yeah. I like the way that they set it up. Plus, I like the fact that their quote-unquote hard camera is the one that's actually facing the entranceway. I actually like that I really like that concept of that's how they're presenting the wrestlers and everything like that on the TV. And also the fact that I'm pretty sure that they don't have a retard like Pete or Kevin Dunn.
Oh, you almost messed up.
I almost messed up. I caught myself, though. I would never disrespect Pete Dunne like that, and you know that. And I think everybody knows that. But I think that what AEW is doing is a much better thing than what NXT is doing. I think that...
Presentation-wise. I would say wrestling-wise.
Wrestling-wise, I think that they're
on par, in my view.
I think that,
not every week.
AEW has stars. They have like Moxley and they have MJF and they have I said Moxley twice. Jeez Louise. And they have like Chris Jericho. And then on the flip side with NXT, you have Adam Cole and frickin' Karrion Kross, who's out with an injury, unfortunately. And you got a lot of these guys that are coming in there and they're doing great things. But I got to give a slight edge to AEW because I like the presentation that they have.
Yeah.
I also like the fact that they're doing these things where they're having the wrestlers on the broadcast a little bit more often, where you're having like Chris Jericho on it, and you have Orange Cassidy on there, and you even had the fucking doofus Kenny Omega that was on there on Wednesday. And I'll tell you, I think AEW's in the right place to keep going to be a successful company as long as they stop doing what they are doing. You gotta stop hiring all the WWE rejects. You guys said, because number one, it makes you look like a hypocrite.
I don't mind them hiring Rusev.
I don't mind them hiring Rusev. Rusev was a tremendous hire. And I get the whole, like, Matt Cardona signed with AEW because of the fact that he's really good friends with Cody Rhodes. But, I mean, yes, the Revival was a smart, geez, I'm really making...
You're arguing against yourself again.
But, like, Brody Lee, that wasn't really, like, a necessary hire. It's like they had to bring in the other freaking Funkadactyl. They didn't really need her. Tay Conte. I don't even think people even care about Tay Conte.
All right. You paying attention to these comments at all?
You can call Omega the most overrated. Of course. No. I will never, ever, ever, ever have the words GOAT and Kenny Omega in the same question.
What are some Pete Dunne dream matches? Pete Dunne dream matches, I think we've already seen some of them. Him versus Walter.
That was tremendous. Him and Tyler Bate had a great match. And I think because of the fact that Pete Dunne can have matches against guys like the size of Walter.
I know he wants to go against Brock. He said that many times.
If I had to pick a dream match, if I had to pick a dream match for Pete Dunne or a couple of dream matches, I'd love to see.
Well, in Pete Dunne right now, he went on Twitter because people were like concerned with the weight loss that he's had. Basically, he showed up. Oh yeah, by the way, I'm in the best shape of my life right now, and he's shredded as all hell.
Yeah.
So he didn't lose weight. He might have lost weight, but more or less he's turned it into muscle.
He's got more definition.
So Pete Dunne, though, now officially has the role of NXT UK producer since he's, stuck in Europe right now because of the pandemic. So I'm surprised they're not using him as a wrestler, and I don't know if this has anything to do with the fact that, he's got a young child at home, or, they just we're not going to have you wrestle except for specifically on NXT. I don't know. I'm not sure.
That's what it is. I would say the first match that comes to mind would be
That's not a bad match. Dunn versus Rollins.
I was about to say Dunn versus
AJ
Styles.
Yeah.
Hell, Pete Dunne versus Cesaro.
Yeah.
Fuck, man. How about that one? I'll take that. Hell, Pete Dunne versus Chris Jericho. Which is funny, too, because, like, that whole question about, like, dream matches and everything.
Dunn versus Orange Cassidy.
So, I guess, some, like, what's his face? Prince Pretty.
Oh, yes.
Tyler Breeze did one of those things where he did a Q&A thing on Instagram, and somebody had asked him, who is somebody that is outside of WWE that you would love to get into the ring with? And he said Orange Cassidy. As the president and the founder of the Orange Cassidy fan club, I think that would be a tremendous match to see. Tyler Breeze is one of those guys we definitely work in the ring. I love him as a performer. I mean, hell, even him against freaking Pete Dunne would be entertaining, if anything.
Have we seen Dunn versus Finn Balor yet?
I don't know if we've seen Dunn and Balor yet.
I would sign up for that match in a millisecond.
Another match that kind of got floated out there is kind of like a dream match type of thing is Walter, who is exclusively on NXT UK, who was, as of right now, does not want to go to the United States, even though he would be their biggest star, and Vince would push his ass to fucking Mars. Fuck the moon. He pushed him to Mars. Has said that the one person he would love to get in the ring with is Drew McIntyre.
I would love to see Pete Dunne versus Jon Moxley.
Yeah.
I think the two of them kind of like a brawler-esque style with both of them. And I think two of them could have a lot of fun with what they do. So
I really do hope that when Pete Dunne does make it to the main roster, that they do, like William Regal does step down as general manager of NXT so that he can manage his son when he makes it to the main roster.
Right. Exactly.
Dunne and Nakamura, yeah, that would be a good one too. Jeez Louise.
As long as they let Nakamura be more New Japan Nakamura as opposed to WWE, where he's kind of toned down a lot of the stuff he does. Yeah. Yeah, the Walter chops are like, holy shit.
I'll tell you right now, the best signing that WWE has made over the last 10 years is Walter. I'm not even close.
I would argue AJ Styles, sir. AJ Styles has been a top-tier member of the main roster basically since he debuted 4 years ago.
True. But here's my reasoning behind it, is that Walter was always seen as one of those guys that was unobtainable because he did not want to work for WWE at all. He didn't want to do it, and finally WWE caved into his demands and were able to sign him to the UK brand, which is a
Walter versus The Undertaker would be nice if they could. That might be able to entice The Undertaker into another match.
I think that would entice Walter to go to the main roster, too.
If it was a WrestleMania match and it was his true first main roster match, I think he might do it. And I think Undertaker would know that Walter could take care of him in the ring.
Oh, yeah.
So as much as Undertaker, he didn't retire, but he said, like, I don't foresee myself being in WWE ring again. I could foresee the Undertaker like going, yeah. So
I'm gonna have to I'm sorry, Justin, on that one. I'm gonna have to disagree with you. Big Show versus Walter. I'd rather watch my dog fight Walter than the Big Show.
I mean, the fact that like Big Show does like the chop where he like.
Walter versus Strowman, though, that would be a real interesting matchup. I mean, hell, Walter versus Keith Lee.
So speaking of Strowman this week was on Raw Underground. And at the end, I forget how it's pronounced, Dabba-Kato. At the very end.
Babatunda or whatever his name is. He's got a new name now.
Basically, at the end, he stepped up and was about to fight Strowman. Shane McMahon steps in the middle. No. We're holding this off until next week. I want to see the two of you. And so I'm actually kind of excited to see that. Two big dudes where it's like Dabba-Kato is, I didn't realize, bigger and taller than Strowman.
Oh, he's a big motherfucker.
So I'm kind of looking forward to that. And Raw Underground is still. I still think it's a fun and interesting concept, and I like the idea of it, and I like the feel of it. So, yeah.
Buffet Owens? No, it's not. It's not Buffet Owens. It's Cupcake Owens. But I am 100% on board with you on that. I was very intrigued with Braun Strowman being on Underground. I really do think that they could actually turn this into something, and Underground could get its own thing on the network.
If they did something like an Underground champion.
Oh God, I'd watch it every week. I would probably watch Underground more than anything else because it's a very interesting concept. It has potential to do something.
And I don't think they should have they could have some storylines, but honestly, I think if they did it specifically network, like 15 to 30 minutes, maybe.
Yeah.
And just
30 minutes would be good.
Something, a short shot of stuff for Underground. I like it.
And the whole, everybody being, part of it. It's not just like a Raw exclusive type of thing where you can have guys, if you do it on the network, you can have, guys from Monday Night Raw. You can have guys from SmackDown. You can have guys from NXT. You can have guys from NXT UK. I mean, who the hell wouldn't want to see, Dragunov get into, a freaking fight with freaking Cesaro? I'd pay to see that. I mean, we've already kind of did because they fought at NXT UK TakeOver, but you know what I mean? It's stuff you won't see. And now that especially because now that they're trying to get Daniel Cormier signed to a WWE.
And he wants to.
And I'll tell you right now, the Underground would low-key be a great way to bring Brock Lesnar back into the fold with WWE.
It would be.
Or even if you can, somehow, some way, some miracle.
Have him and Lashley.
Oh, God.
I've been talking about that ever since, even before Lashley signed back with WWE.
This whole thing of you trying to speak things into existence.
It's going to happen.
I know it's going to happen. And of course it's going to fucking happen, Jay. You're the only person in the history of mankind who talked the Punjabi prison into existence.
It's too bad Jinder got injured because I think we were possibly heading towards another one where him and Drew McIntyre versus.
I still want to see the Jinder versus Roman Reigns inside the Punjabi prison.
Right?
Yeah. But I really do. I do like the Underground. I know that I come on there. What's up?
So Chris is saying that the reason why they put Strowman on Underground is because SmackDown has nothing for him, which it's fucking funny. It's they had this great, really kind of drawn out storyline with him and Bray Wyatt, and they did a lot of character development with him, and then all of a sudden they got nothing. The fuck? On top of the fact that the person who's head of SmackDown Creative is the same one that's the head of Raw Creative. So, what the hell? I guess it's better than having
monster.
Yeah, man.
Appreciate you, man. I think him being on Underground is still a way that it could actually help carry on what they've already created with him in the storyline with Bray Wyatt.
The sickest son of a bitch
Could you
in the
imagine
world.
the fucking Fiend on Underground? I didn't even think of that.
Yeah, it could be fun.
And I do agree with you, Chris. I think that the reason why is because they have really nothing more for Braun Strowman, and it kind of goes back to what they did with WrestleMania this year. Because of the fact that the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal got buried because you can't have more than 5 or 10 people in a spot, at that time during the pandemic and everything, and the fact that Strowman had nothing at WrestleMania until Roman Reigns opted out, and then Strowman got the title. And I did come to find out this week, Braun Strowman came out and did an interview and said Roman Reigns told them to have me fight for the title. He said, "This is my time. This is my opportunity. I deserve to carry the company as the name bearer for SmackDown and the Universal Championship." I thought that was a very wonderful gesture that Roman did. And it just goes to show that rivalry the two of them had, because they are one of the better rivalries of the last 5 years in WWE, that the fact that Strowman worked well with Roman that Roman and his word goes a long way in that company speaks volumes of what kind of a worker Braun Strowman really is.
Right.
A man who's only a United States Championship away from being a Grand Slam champion.
From his tag team championship with Dominic.
Oh, I thought he won it twice.
Yeah, he won it again. I forget who.
Seth Rollins, I think.
Sounds about right. So,
Get these heads.
All right. So another, at least to me, interesting thing that came out this week was Tony Schiavone did an interview, and he actually talked about how WWE tried to sign him before AEW did. And as Schiavone called it, a sketchy deal with WWE, where more or less they gave him an undefined role. They were going to give him an undefined role, and like when he asked them, like, well, what am I going to do? And
like, we'll just find you stuff to do. And Bruce, basically, he talked to Bruce Pritchard about that role, and Bruce Pritchard just kind of like beat around the bush until he said, "Yeah, we really got nothing for you. We just want to hire you."
And Schiavone, being a smart, acute businessman, knows exactly what the hell was going on. He was like, all right, well, and ended up obviously signing with AEW, but it's like, you know, I understand business-wise, hey, let's keep some talent away from AEW, but it's like, the fuck, man? Tony Schiavone, you don't hire him to do nothing, but Schiavone also, I love that he kind of did this shade to WWE and kind of to Bischoff, where he was like going, you know, I didn't want them to Bischoff me, where they hire me for a few months to keep me away from AEW just to fire me.
It's just easy because WWE is such an easy target right now. They're just a punching bag. That's all they are. If you think about this, I mean, how many people have gone out there and have absolutely trashed Vince McMahon and WWE's in 2020? Or even before 2020?
Hey, you know what? You can trash them all that you want, but they're making more money than ever, so he's going to laugh to the bank.
I know he's going to laugh to the bank. So that's all Vince cares about is his fucking money.
So, well, one thing I'll say is not necessarily, because this week on Monday Night Raw, they believed that Mickie James was injured in her match, and they just called off the match in the middle of it. And, you know, Mickie, you could see the surprised look on her face, like,
what the fuck?
And then momentarily after that, then all of a sudden her face went back to normal, like, and she just kind of went back to selling, and then, you know, they called off the match, and, you know, Mickie more or less said, like, hey, I respect what they did. They made a call. They're like between the referee and somebody backstage, they made a call based off of what they believed, and they wanted to keep me safe, and I'm completely fine with what they did. And I, going back to, you know, a couple of years ago with Daniel Bryan, when he had a stinger in the match against Orton, I think it was, and they called the match, and Bryan, you could tell, was freaking pissed off. He's like, no. But Bryan's was all messed up for a bit from that, and that I think led to a few other things. And he was out for a little while because of it.
I thought it was Sheamus that he was.
Whoever it was, it doesn't really matter. But he got hurt, and they called off the match, and he was pissed off. But they made the right call.
Yeah.
And speaking of another person who's been injured lately, Ivar. So Ivar this week had neck surgery.
They're saying he's going to be out for over a year.
And, you know, his tag team partner had a singles match this week. So it's clear that they feel that this is going to be a long term. I mean, supposedly his injury was similar to the dude on the Pittsburgh Steelers who had a contusion on his spine, and he retired. So they believe that Ivar is going to fully recover from this. But, I mean, anytime you're dealing with the neck and spine, and you just don't know. So, you know, certainly prayers for full recovery for him. It's not going to be a speedy recovery, but a full recovery, and that he's able to have a good, full life and hopefully get back into the ring and be safe.
Well, just remember, they said that with Tommaso Ciampa when he had that latest neck injury, and everybody's like, oh, he's probably going to be out for like a year. And it's like, Oh, look at this. He's back like 3 months later.
He's not going to John Cena this one.
I know. Don't talk about that to CM Punk, though, because CM Punk will be upset about that.
Okay.
Because remember when Cena did return from the injury and he won the Royal Rumble?
Right.
CM Punk was actually booked to win that Royal Rumble. But that's okay, CM Punk. You are the first person to ever win the Money in the Bank ladder match twice.
Yeah.
And you were successful both times.
That's right.
And you got the fight. I mean, it should have been the main event at WrestleMania 27, but you did fight the GOAT of GOATs, who's GOATed more than GOATs that ever GOATed in the history of GOATdom.
But in the end, circling back to this, Mickie said that she's all right, and
that's the important thing.
She should be ready to go again, like this coming Monday.
So I have a question for you.
Sure.
In regards to the Commonwealth of Virginia.
Yes.
In the wrestling realm, Mickie James is numero uno, correct?
I think for me, I know for you, you might say Hangman Page.
I'm sorry. She's various. Nothing against Hangman Page. I am not discounting Hangman Page because you know I like Hangman Page.
You love Hangman.
I love Hangman Page. He's the only person in the elite I actually like, other than Cody. But I like Hangman Page. But her body of work and what she was able to do in the wrestling industry,
and still doing
in the wrestling industry. I mean, she's 40 and she's still performing like one of the top women in the division, and can still wrestle better than most men can. So she would be number one. Hangman Page would be number two. Does that mean you and I are tied for three?
Sure, we'll go with that.
Fine. And then somewhere like in the 8,000 ranks is every wrestler that works
the
for
great Hibachi.
I would say that everybody who's ever wrestled for Hampton Roads Championship Wrestling, except for that dude who actually went on to better things for them.
So another thing that happened this week is Mickie James joined Trish Stratus on a live version of The Bump on the WWE YouTube page. And one thing that did come up, a couple of years ago, it seemed like Trish, she had the match with Charlotte at SummerSlam and more or less said, like, all right, that's my last match. Trish Stratus can never completely close the door on coming back in wrestling because she's still in great shape, and it's clear she still loves wrestling. And they asked her, would you be interested in having a match against Sasha Banks?
I'm gonna say this, and especially in the wrestling industry, never say never. Never say never. And I would love to see that match because I think Sasha and Trish would be just as good as Charlotte and Trish from when they fought at SummerSlam last year. But also in the wrestling industry, you never say never, because how many years did Shawn Michaels say, I'm never getting back in the ring? My match against The Undertaker at WrestleMania, I think it was 26?
26.
WrestleMania 26 at his career versus the streak and all that stuff. And he said, I'm never getting back in the ring. And then like a year or two later, ago, we see him in Saudi Arabia, or was it Australia? I was good if he was in Australia.
I think it was Saudi Arabia. I think it was set up in Australia.
Because it was Undertaker versus Triple H, and Australia was set up for DX versus the Brothers of Destruction. And the fact that Shawn Michaels got in the ring, I'm saying never say never. I will not ever rule out Steve Austin ever getting back in the ring. I'd love to see him get one more match. Just because whatever it is, I want to go.
Steve Austin more or less said he would not come back for just one match. Basically because it takes him so much to get into wrestling shape that, like, why would he do all of that work for one match?
Yeah.
So it would be probably a few month run if he did come back. Obviously, there are some things that I will say, never going to see Mick Foley in the ring again, see. But that's health reasons. But if you're talking somebody who's healthy, definitely never say never. Like Hulk Hogan, I'd say there's about 0.01% chance we could see him in a wrestling ring again. But he has all sorts of back issues.
So you're saying there's a chance?
Yeah.
I would pay any amount of money. I would go to wherever the fuck it was to see Hulk Hogan get back in the wrestling ring one more time. As the person who main evented the first wrestling show I ever went to, and I think he would have main evented the real first wrestling show I should have went to, but we're not going to get into that shit. I would pay to see Hulk Hogan get in the ring one more time. And I know who I want to see him fight. Brock Lesnar.
I know you badly want to see that.
I want to see that more than freaking Ric Flair wants to get paid millions of dollars to do nothing.
Right.
So he can pay all of his ex-wives.
I'm intrigued, though, I think this Trish versus Sasha match will happen, and I think it possibly will happen at Evolution, too, here.
And Chris Brown actually brought up a really good point. You can say the same thing about CM Punk. It's a 0.5% chance we see CM Punk. I wouldn't rule out CM Punk in a wrestling ring. I wouldn't be surprised if Punk was the real leader of Retribution.
So, just because I like segueing, I'm going back to, I think we'll see this Sasha match, and Sasha Banks actually made an appearance on something else.
Wait, I thought she made a return to SmackDown this week.
I wouldn't even call that a return. She was off for like a week.
I know, but it's WWE booking.
Anyway, Sasha Banks actually made an appearance in the season 2 for Mandalorian trailer. She's not in there for super long, but it looks like she's going to have a pretty cool role. In as much as I have a bunch of issues with how Sasha, was whiny and left WWE for a bit, it's pretty effing cool to like go, a professional wrestler in Star Wars? Are you fucking kidding me? I fucking love it.
I'm just going to say this. I'm just going to put it out there. I know that you're a diehard Star Wars fan. I think that's an understatement when I say that, too.
We got Darth there.
Darth Vader. Lando motherfucking Calrissian right there.
Even more Lando Calrissian. I got Darth Maul over there.
Yes, you are a diehard Star Wars
I've been to Star Wars conventions.
I enjoy Star Wars. I'm not like a diehard.
Yeah.
I'm basically, when it comes down to this, I am the Jar Jar Binks of this podcast. I accept that. I'm probably the Jar Jar Binks of a lot of people's circles too, but we're not going to get into that. Sure. I like the Star Wars. I like the original ones with the Luke Skywalker and the Han Solo and all that stuff. And of course, I know who he is. He is me. And I enjoy Mandalorian a lot more than I thought I was going to. And now that Sasha Banks is going to be a part of Mandalorian, makes it a little bit more intriguing to me. So I'm curious to see what her role is going to be. I'm curious to see how she kind of transitions into that role.
They've hinted that she's going to possibly be some kind of person with force powers.
I only have one question.
What's up, Timmy?
What's up, Timmy? Are we going to hear Michael Cole at any point during the Mandalorian scream, "It's boss time"?
No, but you know what could happen? I could insert that in. Please don't. Come on.
Please don't.
Michael Cole, baby.
You're like the only person in that. You doing that is like yesterday when I threw the freaking empty bottle into the trash and I screamed Daron Sheffer. I don't know what the fuck I was thinking when I even did it. And I missed too. I missed. That was the worst part.
Daron Sheffer would not.
I know he wouldn't have missed. That's why I feel like I disrespected Daron Sheffer.
You
by
did.
Doing that.
He's a Yukon goat.
Because I like to throw out different names and everything, but we're not going to get into that. I don't need to hear Michael Cole during The Mandalorian. I actually enjoy The Mandalorian. It's actually a really good show. The fact that they brought in freaking Carl Weathers to be in The Mandalorian is fantastic.
He's still alive, even though Drago killed him.
And the alligator.
Yeah.
Or actually, the window. What am I kidding?
Yeah. But, so, I'm psyched to see what her role is. In Mandalorian season 1 was awesome, and season 2 I think is going to be pretty freaking awesome too. So, but it's really cool to see professional wrestlers in like high profile, like Hollywood type stuff. Whether it's Batista as Drax, the Destroyer, The Rock is obviously like the biggest movie star in the world right now, so he's in everything.
Wait, is he the Is he the most electrifying man in all of Hollywood?
The whole world, honestly. He really is.
Do you think that The Rock is finally in that Hulk Hogan category? Remember how you and I talked like a couple of years ago, how you said that if you go and you poll everybody in the world, 1 out of 4 people is going to know who Hulk Hogan is?
But they'll know him specifically from wrestling. Now, I think probably that, yes, his numbers are as high as Hulk Hogan, although they'll know him more as an actor than professional wrestler. But that's neither here nor there. But they know who the hell The Rock is.
And the best part about The Rock is that everybody who knows him as an actor is like, that's the guy who wrestled. So at least they kind of have that. Yeah, a lot of them do, because like a lot of them like, hey, wasn't The Rock a wrestler? No,
and he has zero problem coming out and talking about, his heritage of coming from professional wrestling. So
I love The Rock.
Yeah,
he was never one of my favorite wrestlers, but I love the dude as a human being.
Yeah,
and it's just that because like when he comes out there, like when he came out at WrestleMania 30, and yes, we're not going to go into all the details of WrestleMania 30 about what happened and all that stuff, but like when he goes out there and he was saying it where all the 5 senses, and he talks about the goosebumps and everything like that, that's real emotion. And it's like, even though The Rock is the biggest star in Hollywood right now, and he don't turn down movie roles for anything, The Rock still loves to go out there and deal with the fans, and just loves, just like, he eats that stuff up.
Well, not only that, he shared a story probably less than a year ago where he was like, I was out one day and there were a couple of fans. He was like, this was like during my wrestling days.
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, fans were really excited to see me. And as much as I eventually relented and gave them, like a picture with me and, talked with them for a couple of minutes, they could tell I was not super psyched to talk with them.
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, ever since that, he was like, they probably have no idea, but since that day, I've made it my mission, no matter what fan I interact with, that they will know that I'm appreciative of them in their time. So, like, I mean, he's done stuff on Instagram where he does, like, Instagram Live where, like, some random fan showed up to, like, they saw him in his, like, vehicle and came up to him, and it's, like, pretty freaking awesome. And it's, like, knowing that he has that appreciation for the fans and where he came from, I love the dude. So
I can understand though, like what he was going through that day where he had the fans and he wasn't in the mood, because it's like, especially
but he doesn't do that anymore.
I know, but like with the rigorous schedule that they have, and it's like, oh, they're always traveling and always doing all this stuff, and they're not sleeping and all this stuff. It's like, I can understand, like, if you're at like the airport and you're walking through and you just want to go to the bathroom and take a shit, and some freaking doofus comes up to you with a freaking program and is like, here, can you find this for me? I'd be like, dude, I gotta take a shit. Get the fuck out of my way.
Yes, it is an Elias t-shirt. So the GOAT Elias, poor Elias, still out. Going to be probably several more months before he comes back. So definitely a few injuries on the WWE roster right now. But anyway.
But he's had more concerts.
Right. So
I still want him. I'm still going to petition the National Football League to have him be the halftime show of the Super Bowl this year. I would shit my pants if Elias freaking.
He's not going to.
The next time, I'll tell you right now, Jay, don't rule it out, because now that WWE has the partnership with Fox, Fox can pull the strings and we can get Elias as the halftime show. You know, if you spoke the Punjabi prison returning back into existence, then by God, I can get Elias to be the halftime show of the Super Bowl, because I want the NFL and Super Bowl, whatever it is, to walk with Elias.
Yeah. Tim's rocking a Drew McIntyre shirt today. Nice.
I just happen to be,
he's repping the show.
I have to rep the show.
Yeah. So, all right. I mean, I think we kind of did all the things where we could kind of fuse from one thing to the other, to the other, to the other, to the other. And now I think we've finally run to the end of the road, and we've got to just sit there and not have a smooth segue. So, what do we want to get into next?
I say we talk about. Let's just go right in order. Let's go to Monday Night Raw.
All right. Monday Night Raw this week. We had Retribution had a big part in it. We had Drew McIntyre and Keith Lee having a huge part in it. We had Street Profits going against Cesaro and Nakamura in champion versus champion match. And we had Seth Rollins going against Dominic in a steel cage.
One thing I did want to bring up about Dominic Mysterio. I think what WWE is doing with him, the way that they're booking him, the fact that his first match at WWE was against Seth Rollins, and you know that Seth Rollins is thought of really highly by everybody that matters in WWE. He had his first match at SummerSlam against Seth Rollins. He picked up his first victory in a match that Seth Rollins was in a tag team with Buddy Murphy. Obviously, Buddy Murphy eating the pinfall was no surprise to anybody. But this past week, he was in a match with Seth Rollins again inside the steel cage.
Yeah.
And Seth Rollins did go over, but it did lead to a beatdown of sorts. And a very interesting kind of like twist to all of this is that Rey Mysterio's daughter checked on Buddy Murphy after the match because he kind of got in.
He got beat up by Rollins, and but that was more or less Rollins before all of this said told Murphy to stay back there because all he does is make mistakes and screw up, and Murphy ended up coming out there and he ended up eating the fence. And what's wrong with you?
How many times do you think Tom Coughlin said that to Eli Manning over his career?
Or Tiki Barber.
Oh, fuck Tiki Barber. He can kiss my fucking ass. I hate that guy.
Yeah.
But
so anyway.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
So Murphy ended up getting beat down by Seth Rollins for coming out during the match. But yeah, so Rey Mysterio's daughter comes out and helps Murphy. And the reason why?
It's because she has a heart. It looks like they're starting to do a storyline where they're going to do where she's the love interest of Buddy Murphy.
See, I thought I read something somewhere where it's not love interest, but they're really dating. But I could be wrong.
That's possible. But I heard that it was that it was kind of like the love story angle that they're doing and everything like that. It's possible that the two are dating, but I didn't think that she was that old. I think she's only 19 or 20 years old. So I could be wrong. You could be right.
So anyway, Seth Rollins goes over in this match. I thought overall, even though Rollins wins the match, I think both guys kind of got over as far as what was going on, and the fact that it was a steel cage match, which made it feel different than their street fight that they had at SummerSlam. So I think it's good.
And most importantly, and I can't stress this enough, that today on September 19th of 2020, Vince McMahon loves Dominic Mysterio.
Right.
Which means by November 9th, he's going to be in the freaking doghouse and working for main event.
Mm-hmm.
Because Vince McMahon's opinions on wrestlers changes like the weather in Connecticut. If you don't like what Vince McMahon thinks, or if you like what Vince McMahon thinks, just give it 15 minutes.
Tim is derping on Eli, and then he's like, now they have Danny Turnover. Not wrong. Yeah.
At least our starting quarterback isn't Medea.
Hey, Tim's team is first place in your division, so. Spit it out, Bubba Ray.
At least my team has a football name.
They have a football name.
It's not a football. They're a football team. Washington football team is not a team name.
I wish they would have called them the Red Wolves, or my personal favorite would have been if they were the Red Dogs. That way, when we went to Red Dog, it just makes it. Yeah. That's right, pal.
That's such good shit, pal.
Yeah, Vince changes his mind as often as he pours himself a bourbon. Yeah, I would agree. Yeah.
Vince changes his mind about as often as I change my underwear. And I wear
once a month?
No. I change my underwear like I wear like 2 pairs of underwear a day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, all right. So Drew McIntyre came out this week and talked about if he would stay out, according to what the WWE doctors said, with his jaw injury, that he would have to relinquish the WWE title. And he said, yeah, they're going to, more or less, he said, they're going to have to pry this title from my dead hands. He's like, screw that. If I need to leave this arena every week in an ambulance, I will, to keep my championship. And said he wants to face Randy Orton in an ambulance match at Clash of Champions.
Oh, God, no.
I think that's what we're going to be getting here. But they specifically also said, well, Randy Orton isn't cleared to compete right now. And they made some other stipulation, which I don't think is going to end up happening, where Keith Lee may get inserted into this match. But I think it's going to end up being Orton versus McIntyre. I think I like the idea. I almost wish they did a stretcher match instead. I enjoyed those back in the day, although nothing was quite as terrible as when Sid went against El Gigante in a stretcher match back in WCW.
See, ambulance matches and I was never a fan of stretcher matches or ambulance matches or anything like that. Give me somewhere where somebody's just going to beat the shit out of somebody for whatever reason. They're going to beat the shit out of somebody for good shit, pal. And I hate those kind of gimmicky matches. It was just like that one year where they did TLC and it was tables, ladders, chairs, and stairs. And I'm like, that is
the stairs match is the worst.
The fact that they put Eric Rowan,
I love the fact that was so terrible that I still speak of it.
The fact that they put Eric Rowan in the Big Show in the first ever stairs match makes all the sense in the world, because the Big Show, as he got older, sucked. And Eric Rowan, as a wrestler, sucked. The only thing that
Are you talking about the former Cleveland manager?
The only good thing that Eric Rowan was ever good for was digging the wedgie out of his ass.
I don't think he was good at that either.
Well, I mean, he just constantly got him. So, I mean, he just kept on doing that. That's probably why he wasn't a good wrestler, because he was worried about getting wedgies.
Yeah.
By the way, I'm surprised he hasn't surfaced anywhere. I'm surprised.
No, we'll see how all that turns out. So anyway, I'm guessing we're going to get this Drew versus Orton match at Clash of Champions. Whether or not Keith Lee ends up in the match, it is yet to be determined, because the stipulation was Keith Lee needed to beat Drew McIntyre at the end of Raw to have that possibility. But they ended up in a no contest because Retribution showed up, and Retribution, cleared the ring, and then Hurt Business decides to come out, and it's Hurt Business. I thought they looked pretty badass, like all four of them on the stage taking off their jackets, and then it was, they have extra people in Retribution right now to make it look larger, but it was basically about 10 on 4.
Kind of like what they did with the Dark Order, where the Dark Order was basically Evo Uno and freaking Stu Grayson, and it was a bunch of dudes wearing masks. Now it's like they got Colt Cabana, and they got freaking, which I will never wrap my head around the fact that Colt Cabana's in the Dark Order. But I mean, that's what they were doing. It was just basically, it was those two, and there was like a bunch of dudes that nobody gave a shit about that freaking wore masks and did weird shit. And now they have legitimate people that are in the Dark Order, which is what I think they're doing with Retribution. Is they're just getting a whole bunch of ninjas from freaking Tozawa's Ninja Crew to join in Retribution, and there we go.
So anyway, after the clearing of the ring, and when Hurt Business comes down, we got Kevin Dunn's shaky camera to the fucking gills. I got sick watching this fucking segment. I could have thrown up.
Clearly.
But in general, the brawl looked pretty impressive. But at the very end, you had a double, run and flip over the rope by Drew McIntyre and Keith Lee. Keith Lee in a singlet. I'm not sure I'm sure that's Vince McMahon like, oh, he doesn't have a well-defined body. We need to put a singlet on him. And I'm not a big fan of the outfit myself, but seeing Keith Lee run and do the, jumping flip over the top rope, very impressive.
It's the same reason
the way that they ended Monday Night Raw. So nothing super clear as far as what will happen with Keith Lee at Clash of Champions.
First of all, one thing I wanted to bring up was the fact that MVP was, for whatever reason, on commentary, and he ran over there so he could make his way to the ring to attack Retribution with the Hurt Business. I fucking love MVP. I have loved MVP for a very long time. He's been one of my favorites. So that shit,
yeah.
I love that aspect. Number two, the Hurt Business coming out there and fighting against Retribution is another thing I really loved about what we watched on Monday this week. Because of the fact that because the Hurt Business is supposed to be a heel faction, and they are right now the number one heel faction in all of WWE, other than maybe the Undisputed Era down in NXT. And they're kind of more like tweeners of anything. If I'm going to,
they're the cool heels.
They're the cool heels.
But they're like the NWO of.
And the Hurt Business is one of those ones because I fucking love the Hurt Business. The farther down the line we get, the more I like the Hurt Business. So the fact that they went out there and they're like, no, fuck it, this is our show, so fuck Retribution. We're going to go out there and fight these guys. I love that shit. And they're all wearing their suits and they're taking their coats and their ties off and they're like, we're going to go and fight these dudes. I love that shit. I love MVP.
It's such good shit.
It's one of the few things on Monday Night Raw they're getting right is the Hurt Business. So
I think they're getting Drew McIntyre right.
Oh yeah, they're getting Drew McIntyre. Keith Lee is getting booked very well too, but we'll see how that goes and see when Vince McMahon hates these people because it's going to happen.
He'll change his mind at some point.
And talking about Keith Lee in the singlet, how is that any different from Kevin Fat Fuck Owens and his cupcake habit wearing a T-shirt to the ring? I bet you Kevin Owens was that kid growing up.
Always wore the T-shirt.
That's my thing. I bet you any money that Kevin Owens was that fat kid at the pool who swam with a T-shirt on, who's got the freaking bag of Doritos in his hands, just with the Doritos dust on his fingers, and he's got smears of cheese coming down his face as he's walking to the pool. That's who Kevin Owens is.
Yeah.
That, and he's part of the female anatomy on the woman's body.
Okay.
And I'm not talking about her hair.
Okay. All right. So we had the Street Profits going against Cesaro and Nakamura. Usually they would save something like this for Survivor Series, but for whatever reason they did this way. Street Profits go over though. It's Street Profits show on Raw, so better to make them look strong. And I love the Street Profits.
Same. They've been booked very well as tag team champions on Raw. I mean, they've held the tag team titles for a while, too.
Especially after Montez Ford killed himself.
Yeah.
Right before WrestleMania.
I remember that. They were champions back at WrestleMania, weren't they?
Did they win the titles at WrestleMania? But I think that's what happened. But Montez Ford, when he did the flip onto the outside and that wasn't supposed to happen. He just did it.
I think they won them before. I want to say they won them before WrestleMania.
It might have been like a month before.
Because I remember.
I don't remember.
I'm
going to look it up.
It's not a big deal.
Unless Chris Brown is or somebody else has that info.
I want to say they won them on Raw. And I want to say they beat the Revival or something because the Revival was on SmackDown at the time. It is what it is. But anyway. I do like the Street Profits. I think they're the best booked tag team on Raw. For a while, and everything they do turns to gold. I loved what they did with the Viking Raiders a while back, where they were having the bowling thing and the axe throwing and all that shit. It's something different, and obviously, like you said, it was their show, so obviously they needed to go over on Nakamura and Cesaro, which did. Then we had Cesaro on SmackDown last night go one-on-one with Grand Metallica, and Cesaro, they go over. And I love the fact that WWE posted it on social media that he won a big match against Grand Metallica. And I'm like,
I am ready for this storyline with the Lucha House Party and Nakamura and Cesaro to be done. I was ready for it to be done a couple of weeks ago. I don't like it. Nothing wrong with the performers, but just, yeah.
March 30th is when Montez Ford fucked up his back.
And on here, it's saying that it was March 3rd, I believe, that they beat Murphy and Rollins. Or March 2nd, that they beat Murphy and Rollins.
Yep, on Raw.
On Monday Night Raw to win the championships.
I've had them for a while, too. Had them over
Yeah,
6
since
months.
March.
Yeah, since 6 months.
Almost 7 months. A couple weeks, it'll be 7 months.
Yep.
So they just need to hold it through, I guess, Clash of Champions, although I don't think they have a match right now.
By the way, that's dynamite research there, Chris Brown. I appreciate that.
So for the most part, that was Monday Night Raw. I mean, I guess we could get into more or less many of the members of Retribution that we believe to be part of Retribution. It came out this week. I think Brian Alvarez was the one who put it out there. The Retribution right now are Dio Madden,
Which I love that.
Mia Yim,
Meh.
Shane Thorne,
Meh.
Mercedes Martinez,
I don't get that one.
and Dominic Dijakovic.
I fucking love that one. I love that Dio Madden and Donovan Dijakovic are in Retribution. This is perfect for them. Just because you remember, Dio Madden was part of the broadcast team. He kind of got forced out for, I think he was getting into it with one of the wrestlers. I forget which one it was. Off the top of my head, I'm horrible. I have horrible memory. But the fact that would be, I mean, him going from the broadcast team and then being in Retribution is what Retribution is.
I agree, Chris. I think they need to start revealing people, even if it's just one at a time, taking off their mask. And if it's those 5, and then they reveal to have
a higher
power, who is the head of them, I guess similar to the Dark Order, similar to the higher power things from the Ministry days.
It was me, Austin. That's such good shit, pal. I swear, that would be the ultimate swerve if Vince McMahon was the head of Retribution.
Where he just those people talk shit about his own company.
Yeah,
it's great.
Because nobody would expect it.
Right. Ha 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 ha. That's such good shit.
Because I mean, what are they going to do? I mean, like of all the people that they released, they run out of people. What is it going to be? Eric Rowan, who can't cut a fucking promo? It's going to be Curtis Axel. I would love for it to be Curtis Axel, if I'm going to be honest, because he's right there. But they're running out of people. And one thing that did happen on Raw that wasn't brought up was Aleister Black had a match with Kevin Owens.
Who cares?
Kevin Owens went over, but this is where it gets interesting because it kind of segues. So Aleister Black, after losing to Kevin Owens this week, came out and did an interview and said that he believes, because of something that happened during his match with Kevin Owens with the lights and everything, he believes that Kevin Owens is the leader of Retribution.
Okay.
I would have loved for it to have been Sami Zayn, if I'm going to be honest. But Sami Zayn,
that's not going to happen because Sami Zayn is in his own match at Clash of Champions, a triple threat match made official last night for a ladder match.
I'm so excited for that.
Triple threat ladder match.
Because you got the druggy Jeff Hardy who just signed a new contract. And by the way, in Jeff Hardy's new contract, his old entrance song comes back. What is it? No More Tears or some shit like that?
Something like that. Hey, good for him. And Jeff Hardy came out after he signed the contract. He's like, I can't screw up anymore. If I screw up, I'm done. It's clear, whether it was Triple H or Vince McMahon who sent up the contract with him, probably said, all right, pal. You screw up any more times, you're out of here.
You're fired.
Yeah.
But I'm excited for Hardy, Styles, and Sami Zayn in a triple threat match, ladder match for the Intercontinental title. I wonder if they're going to do just like they did at WrestleMania 10 where both Intercontinental titles are hanging from the rafters. And I'm also curious to see if next week, if Sami Zayn's going to come up with some bullshit reason why he shouldn't be defending his Intercontinental Championship in a ladder match against those two.
Well, I mean, he did lose to AJ Styles to get AJ officially implemented in this match.
So my question to you is this, because I know how you feel about champions losing clean in non-title matches. What is, like, in your mind, who is the Intercontinental Champion?
It's Jeff Hardy. I'm sorry, Jeff Harvey.
It's not Sami Zayn.
It's not Sami Zayn, even though he didn't lose the title. They set up a tournament to officially have a new champion because he did not come back and fulfill his obligation as champion, even though they played loose and fast with the rules as far as, like, Brock Lesnar not showing up for 4 months and defending his title, but Sami Zayn has to do it within 30 days. One thing I am happy with AEW about is there is an official AEW rule book, and they actually try to adhere to it, as much as I don't think they've really mentioned it on TV, but I think they actually attempt to adhere to it as much as the referees will play loose and fast as far as, like, whether it's a DQ in, like, a title match or whether or not somebody's tagged in, although I think they've been getting better about not letting that crap go in tag matches. Like, they were going to do away with the tag rope, and I think they did for a bit, and Jim Ross is like, why the hell did you do that? You need rules for people to break, and if tag rope is one thing, then make sure they have a rule to break. So it's like the fact that that AEW seems to be attempting now to keep to the wrestling rules that they have, as opposed to WWE, that they're just like going, well, this doesn't fit what we want to do.
Right.
It's like going, no, you need to be better at your creative process to come up with a better solution to why you strip somebody of the title, as opposed to you won't strip Brock Lesnar. So, but I Sean never lost the title, but
He lost his smile.
and went away for long enough where they decided they needed a new champion. So yeah, I consider Jeff Harvey the true champion.
I think that the true champion is going to be finally crowned at Clash of Champions, because it is going to be a triple threat match against a guy who shouldn't have lost the title to Jeff Hardy in the first place, the guy who shouldn't.
Well, we'll get into our talk, I guess, next week. Well, I guess you're doing a spoiler for next week's show where we will make our predictions.
Well, you know me, I'm not going to pick Jeff Hardy to win shit. I can't pick Jeff Hardy to win a match, just like I can't pick the Dallas Cowboys to win a football game. I just can't do it.
And Kurt Warner can't pick the Giants to win a football game.
Nope. The New York Giants could play freaking
The Bengals.
New Britain High School, and he would pick New Britain High School to beat them.
New Britain's pretty good.
Can't beat the Giants. It's a football. It's an NFL team versus a high school.
Bucky Jones went there. He's a Super Bowl champion.
Mickie Jones is the all-time leading rusher in New Britain High School history.
I saw him in one of those games.
He bought me a shot of
Something?
tequila.
Yeah? So
I hate tequila, but I took it because that Super Bowl. If a Super Bowl champion buys you a shot, you're taking it, no matter what it is.
yeah. All right. So that's more or less Monday Night Raw, and yeah. All right. What shall we get into next?
I mean, we already brought up that Sheamus. Sheamus. This is our wow.
SmackDown.
Yeah, this is getting SmackDown.
So part of SmackDown this week, very beginning of it, a couple weeks ago, Big E was supposed to be in a fatal four-way to get a shot possibly at the Universal Championship, but he was led astray by a member of security where he got beat down and then didn't get his opportunity. So Big E showed up this week and beat the holy hell out of said security guard. It was pretty freaking awesome. I loved it. I thought it was a great fucking beatdown. Good stuff. It's such good shit, pal. What's up, Aiden? Thanks for tuning in.
Put him in the fucking the car too, which I thought was actually kind of funny.
Yeah. I like this feel for Big E.
Yeah.
So.
Another thing that happened on SmackDown this week, we had the return of the Dirt Sheet. And
it returns almost every week.
I know, but I'm not saying it return of the dirt. You just got to take all the thunder out of it for me, can't you?
It's not the return. They had it like last week. And they had it like the week before. The return?
Whatever. It sounded good. It sounded good, okay? It's all about presentation, okay? But anyway, we had the dirt sheet this week where the Miz and Morrison came out, and they were talking about Otis Dosovich and the reason why they had Mandy Rose, because it seems like it was the Miz who actually got Mandy Rose traded to Monday Night Raw. And they said that the reason why is that Otis didn't need that distraction of Mandy Rose in his life so that he can concentrate on that Money in the Bank briefcase and all that stuff. And he
was doing it for the greater good of Otis.
Which led to Otis coming out because of all the things the Miz was saying, to come out there and attack both the Miz and John Morrison. And my favorite part about it was he stripped the Miz down to his skivvies, and basically the Miz ran out of the arena in his tidy whities.
But later on, it was shown that the Miz on the phone
was part of the plan.
Yeah.
That he was on the phone with a lawyer saying that the reason that he was doing this is they could press charges, and they're going to be suing. They're going to file a lawsuit against Otis Dosovich.
And I wonder if it's for the Money in the Bank.
They actually said that. They said that if he doesn't relinquish his Money in the Bank briefcase to them, they're going to file a lawsuit against him next week. So it's going to be some kind of chicanery.
Right.
Poor Otis, man.
The Dozer.
That whole circle of friends between the two of them and frickin' Dolph Ziggler, he just can't catch a break.
No. But at least this puts this feud, I guess, into something a little bit different than how it was going. So,
I love what they're doing. I love that.
We'll see where it goes.
It's one of my favorite things on SmackDown because the Miz. Say what you will about the Miz. The Miz is one of the best storytellers that they have in WWE. John Morrison is he's John Morrison. I
love John Morrison.
I can't go into any more detail than the fact that he's John Morrison. You know,
Friday Night Delight.
You know that whatever you get from John Morrison is going to be good. And now, and it's our dude Otis Dosovich that is getting this opportunity. When he cashes in that briefcase and he wins the title, if he wins the title from that cash in, that celebration on this podcast is going to be astronomical. It's going to be like that scene in the Red Sox clubhouse after they won the World Series in 2004.
Yeah, Chris, it's pretty clear that when Otis cashes in, he's not going to win. Like, if he tries to cash in on Roman, whenever that may be, he won't win. But, you know.
If he is successful in his cash-in attempt, are we going to have an Otis Dosovich party on the podcast?
Sure.
We're going to celebrate.
We're going to have steaks and weights.
Are we going to celebrate like the Red Sox in 2004?
I probably won't, but I might. You know, maybe we could celebrate like Jonathan Papelbon 2007.
We're going to dance around like a bunch of assholes in our freaking...
Absolutely.
With goggles on our head?
With goggles on our head.
Okay.
I also saw him put a Bud Light 24 pack on his head. I don't know if that was seen so much. I saw it at the end of the ALCS. But anyway, we'll see. We'll see how all that goes. Anyway.
Maybe we can get the dozer to jump on the cake for us.
Yeah!
People bulldozer through the cake. Ah! He would dozer through any cake.
Yeah!
Moving along.
We did have Nikki Cross going against Lacey Evans here, and obviously this is just a tune-up to kind of make her look stronger before she goes against Bitchy One Belt at Clash of Champions. But the real story here was we had Alexa Bliss once again using the Sister Abigail on Lacey Evans outside the ring.
Basically what happened was Alexa Bliss had a moment of bliss, and Nikki Cross was going to be her guest on the show. And she was talking about, like, ever since this whole thing with Bray Wyatt has kind of happened, Like she's in like a different place than she was mentally and everything. And as she was going through all this is when Lacey Evans came out and interrupted, which led to the Nikki Cross versus Lacey Evans match, which then led to Alexa Bliss being on the commentary team for said match. And during the match, Lacey Evans came up and she basically got into Alexa Bliss's face and was taunting her, which then turned to Alexa Bliss going over, hitting Sister Abigail and Lacey Evans. And I'm curious to see where this all goes. I really am. I'm kind of intrigued by this. This is something that a lot of people were not expecting. They thought that was just kind of like this whole Alexa Bliss thing was just going to lead to her and Braun and Bray. And then once that was over, it was just going to be, that's it. It's up. It's over. Now, with Braun Strowman doing, Raw Underground stuff and Bray Wyatt is Firefly Funhousing, and now Alexa Bliss is all fucked up mentally, I'm curious to see where this all goes.
One of the more intriguing storylines, as much as we joke around about bad WWE storylines, it's like this is one of the most interesting, and if you were looking at it from like just pure psychology, it's like this actually this is not lowbrow WWE poop jokes.
Right.
It's actually like whoa, this is not shit.
Right.
I dig it.
And I'll tell you right now, like WWE, they have me fully vested in a lot of things. I'm curious to see what happens. Like I'm in the Hurt business. I'm fully vested in the Hurt business. I'm fully vested in the Raw Underground. I'm curious to see what they do with the Retribution, and I'm really curious to see what this all leads to with Alexa Bliss and Bray Wyatt and all that stuff. Like, is she going to end up in the Firefly Funhouse? Is she going to end up being a character on it? Do we get to see heel Blissy again where she comes out as Harley Quinn? Does she become the Fiend's Harley Quinn?
We will find out. And I'm with you on most of those. Retribution, I think, needs more of a reason for what they're doing, and when they reveal them, they've been doing stuff for quite a while, and again, it comes off so far as Walmart brand Nexus.
The one thing I will say is the reason I'm intrigued by this whole Retribution is for two reasons. Why and who's going to be in charge?
Well, they told you why on Monday, but it didn't seem like a good enough reason in my view.
I think there's more to it is what I'm getting at. And I think that once they finally establish who is going to be in charge of Retribution, then we'll get a better picture painted of what they're doing.
All right. Okay. So also SmackDown, we had a Sasha Banks promo. Sasha had a neck brace on after, getting her head kind of stomped on while in a chair from Bailey Manning. And she kind of talked about, I heard everything Bailey said last week. Bailey wouldn't be anything without me. And kind of talking about, hey, when we walk these halls in the Performance Center, about achieving our dreams, we've kind of achieved them all. And, just throwing some shade at Bailey for kind of turning on her. And then at the end of this, Bailey Manning shows back up and beat the heck out of her with a chair.
Do you think they have more episodes of The Mandalorian to shoot?
The thing is they probably finished shooting The Mandalorian months and months ago, possibly when Sasha Banks was actually
had her hissy fit.
When she had her hissy fit. Because I don't think for the most part they're doing any shooting. They're not doing much as far as shooting for shows because of pandemic. So, but I thought it was a good way to continue this storyline, and you could keep Sasha off TV. I think what this might be is Sasha being able to go on a media blitz for Mandalorian season 2 because that starts on October 30th. So that gives her a few weeks possibly to go out and promote the show.
There you go.
So I liked it.
It's what they needed to do.
So, and the main event was the Simone Street fight that we kind of got into. And again, nothing against this match or the performers, but it was nothing anywhere near the parking lot brawl we got on AEW. It felt like Walmart brand. So, but I do like the idea that there's still, Roman's the heel, but still bros with his cousin. Yeah. So, who will get his championship opportunity next Sunday.
That's good for him, man. I'm happy for him.
Yeah. So.
Wait, they're doing NXT TakeOver the week after freaking Clash Champions?
They are.
Wow. Keep doing what you're doing, WWE.
All right. So on to, I guess we could go through NXT here.
Let's go for it.
NXT actually now has officially signed Mauro Ranallo's replacement to a longer-term deal.
I'm afraid I've got some bad news for you. I love doing that.
Wade Barrett has now signed a one-year deal with WWE, and there is the possibility of that getting extended. So good on Wade Barrett. Good for WWE.
And NWA takes another hit.
Well, it's pretty clear that NWA is not coming back. Like they're having the weekly pay-per-view thing, but they're not coming back in any big way anytime soon. With the fact that we saw the NWA Women's title actually defended on AEW, but Wade Barrett getting a deal, good for him.
And I'll tell you right now, a lot of people were hoping that Wade Barrett was going to return to WWE, and I think this is a good move. Do you think we see him back in the ring at some point?
Yeah, we'll see him at some point. He's said the way his wrestling in-ring career ended is not how he wants it to end. He will be back in the ring. And it might be a short run, but, maybe they do it similar to either what that they do with Samoa Joe or what they do with Lawler. But, it'll be fine. It'll be good.
It's bad.
Yeah.
It's bad. I'm curious. I'm happy for him. And I'm curious to see what this now means for Nigel McGuinness, because Nigel McGuinness is the one who he's replacing. As I said, it's going to be him, Vic Joseph, and Beth Phoenix on the NXT broadcast team.
Well, I'm wondering if Nigel's doing NXT UK.
Oh, that's right.
Because that'll be coming up soon.
They just started it back up this week, actually.
So, yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah? All right. So we did have Io Shirai going against Shotzi Blackheart, non-title match. But Shotzi actually, held her own.
She looks good. She looked good in that match.
Did not look like a joke, coming from the Robert Stone brand storyline to, going against the NXT Women's Champion. Not bad at all.
Well, I mean, she's actually established herself pretty well too,
But she's going from a comedy storyline to NXT champion. Like you generally don't go from comedy to champion.
No.
Which is why the Dozer's probably going to lose.
Yeah.
Sadly.
Yeah.
Sad.
Even though Vince loves the Dozer, but give that about another week or two.
So Io Shirai goes over. Really good match. Made Shotzi look really good. So.
Yeah.
All right. Then we had Kushida going against Austin Theory. And Kushida goes over in this match. I'm wondering if this part of this is retribution. See what I did there? For Austin Theory, and all the chicanery that possibly went on with that. And maybe it's similar to what happened with Enzo, where he wasn't forthcoming about some of the things. So they're like, all right, well, we're not going to fire you, but you're going to need to eat some shit for a little while.
Bro.
Yeah.
That was the deepest into a podcast. I didn't go, bro.
Then we had Breezango having a rematch with Imperium. Breezango obviously winning the NXT Tag Team Championships a couple weeks back. And Imperium lost.
By the way, Nicole loves Breezango.
Yeah.
Let me reiterate. Nicole loves Breezango.
Okay.
She next time you see her, you gotta ask her opinion on Breezango. It's fucking hysterical. I'm not gonna ruin it.
Oh, I'm sure. So, but Breezango just won the titles. I figured that they were going to go over in this match and give them a shot to establish something and do something. So
I like them as tag team champions. You know me, I'm still going to be salty about the fact that Fandango beat the goat of goats who have goated more than goats have ever goated in the history of goatdoms at WrestleMania 29. But that's, maybe one day I'll overlook that, and maybe one day.
you're like the only person who actually like is obsessed with that.
I understand. Just like for the longest time, you were the only person obsessed with the Punjabi prison.
It came back.
Yeah, I got nothing for that. I'm sorry, I got nothing for it. But I keep, the way that I keep talking about the stairs match, we might end up getting another one.
No.
Hey,
Captain Wedgie killed the gimmick.
You got the Punjabi prison. I got freaking Nia Jackson blow up over at ACLs. I think that's a win-win situation for the Pep and Marks podcast.
Right.
If I do say so myself.
Right. All right. So we did have Damian Priest going against Timothy Thatcher for the North American Championship.
Good match too, man.
So good.
I love Timothy Thatcher. Timothy Thatcher is one of those guys that keeps climbing up my freaking power rankings.
But NXT North American Champion Damian Priest did retain a really good match. And again, neither of these guys came off looking like Thatcher losing did not look like he was not up for the challenge.
By the way, speaking of people I want to see fight Pete Dunne, Timothy Thatcher.
All right.
Just because of he was the guy to replace Dunne in the tag team, and him and the Bro were freaking tag team champions. I want to see that match.
Yeah.
And that's going to be, in the words of WWE Hall of Famer JR, it'll be a slobber knocker.
Yeah, it'll be good.
That sounded terrible.
Yeah, it would. That sounded more like Wade Barrett than it did.
By God, he broke him in half.
So, and then what we had is General Manager William Regal.
Pete Dunne's dad.
Pete Dunne's dad came up and announced the way that we're going to have NXT Women's Championship #1 contender and NXT Men's Championship contender. That they're setting those up. I think they're both next week. One of which, so the women's title match is going to be Battle Royal, and whoever wins that will be the #1 contender. They announced the folks, but I don't remember all the names off the top of my head. I remember Shotzi Blackheart was one of them.
I know that Kaden Carter is one of them. I know
I would imagine Candice LeRae's in it.
Candice LeRae's in it. I believe Casey Canizero is one of them.
So you've got those ladies lined up. Then the other thing is we're going to have a gauntlet eliminator style match.
I am shocked. No, not a gauntlet match to determine the #1 contender.
But no, wait. They're doing something different here. It's a gauntlet eliminator match where every 4 minutes a new person is coming down to the ring. So it could end up where there's 5 people in the ring at the same time. So if you're not pinned, submitted, you're still in the match. It's not going to be like, oh, you wait until somebody loses until you update it. It's like at least they've tweaked it a bit where you're like going, oh, it's not the same exact thing that we've seen for the last couple of years. And you know me, I love myself a gauntlet match. Kofi Kingston and Seth Rollins are still going in a couple of these gauntlet matches all these years later.
By the way, I do know that 2 of the names, I think it's the only 2 names that have been confirmed, announced for
I'm
the
sure.
men's match. No, it's not. The only 2 names that are confirmed are Cameron Grimes and Kushida. I want
Kushida. Okay.
I want Kushida to win that thing. You know how bad I want to see Kushida versus Finn Balor for the NXT title? Are you kidding me? I get why
More
Cameron
than
Grimes
you want to see the Dallas Cowboys not win the Super Bowl?
No, there's nothing in this world I want to see less than the Cowboys winning the Super Bowl. A close second would be the Yankees winning the World Series.
And the Eagles winning the Super Bowl?
I saw that. It was not as horrifyingly disgusting as I thought.
Well, it's because they were going against the Patriots.
The only thing that's worse than watching the Eagles win the Super Bowl is when their team wins and we're at Red Dog and half of the freaking bar is drunkenly singing that Eagles fight song.
Yeah.
I've never had suicidal thoughts come into my mind until every time they sing that song. I feel like I want to be Chris Benoit. Since it's a wrestling podcast, I have to. But not the dastardly things he did to the other people, just myself.
Oh, terrible. Terrible.
Yeah, well, what do you want me to say? As Eminem said in one of his songs, I'm going to hell. Who's coming with me? I'm driving the bus. And then the entire ride is just going to be, instead of a siren, it's just going to be Susan Waldman's voice. Oh my God! Ah! Ah! It's my alarm clock every morning.
Yeah. All right. So before we completely get off of WWE,
Keep going.
Before we get completely off WWE, allegedly Melina may be showing up on WWE programming soon. So Melina most recently was actually on NWA. NWA, who, again, apparently almost everybody is leaving NWA at this moment.
They've been purged and pillaged. I think the only guys that have left are like James Storm, Nick Aldis, and the guy I keep forgetting his name. Even though he's like he was a guy from Impact. He's half of their tag team champions with James Storm.
No, not going to work here anymore.
Oh, fuck, I can't even think of his name. And I'm going to tell you, you're like, oh yeah, I know who that is.
Anyway, Melina is allegedly, possibly going to show up back on WWE TV. I don't know if they would do this, but would they put her on the dirt sheet? I know Morrison has moved on and is married to somebody else, but it sounds like something Vince McMahon would be like, hey, weren't they a thing? Why don't we put her on this? I think Morrison would only accept it if he could dump on her for the crap that she did to him.
And then bring back Batista?
Possible.
Have him go on the dirt sheet?
Anyway, but, I always enjoyed Melina as a performer. When she did like that banshee cry before she did. Like,
see, that was the only thing I didn't like about her was when she did that stupid cry. It's terrible.
Better than Roman Reigns.
The only thing that's more painful listening to was Jillian Hall singing.
So Jillian Hall,
I'm sorry,
Melina.
Right. No. It's Jillian Hall is the most annoying, disgustingly terrible thing you've ever heard in WWE. Second is Michael Cole. Every time he does any of those sticky, stupid things, he says, "It's boss time." The big dog. Vintage. Insert whatever fucking wrestler's name here. Then it's freaking Melina's cry, and then it was Big Cass trying to speak English. I got there's only one way to describe them, and I'm gonna spell it out for you. SAWFD, because I'm from New York and I don't know how to spell soft.
Yeah. All right. Moving right along. All right. AEW this week, and ironically, for those tuning in on our Facebook page right now, you may have noticed that it is now called All Elite Marks. So that doesn't mean we're not going to cover, obviously, WWE.
Clearly.
But
Because if I don't talk about WWE, what do I talk about?
New Japan, Impact, Hampton Roads Championship Wrestling, Clash of the Champions 13,
Greg the Bunny.
Yeah, all sorts of stuff like that.
I'm still trying to figure out why they did it. I have no idea. I'm not against it.
Oh. That is a very, very important question. Where does Vicky Guerrero's excuse me ring?
Right after Jillian Hall. I'm gonna reestablish. That thing was more annoying than. No, I'm gonna say Michael Cole in general is just more annoying than Vicky Guerrero's excuse me, because that excuse me got so much heat. I have to give it some kind of a pass of like it being annoyance.
All right.
So I would say it's right above Melina's war cry.
All right. Moving on to AEW.
I mean, we already talked about the street fight.
We did. We did have FTR going against Jurassic Express in a non-title match. FTR wins. FTR is still undefeated here. Jurassic Express always goes out there and has a good match.
Jack Perry is going to be a star. He is only like 21 years old. The sky is the limit. His ceiling is incredible. And it's just let him get the experience now. Let him, develop, because eventually in a year or two, he's going to turn into a pretty decent star. I can see him being like a TNT champion.
He's already a star. He
could be superstar.
Exactly. So,
and I'll tell you, if he actually uses like his whole dad storyline, George's like character development, that could be something for him too.
I know he said that he doesn't want to use that at all, and like when JR called him Jungle Boy Jack Perry, like that was like a big thing. But he, more or less, Jungle Boy was like going, if JR wants to call me Jungle Boy Jack Perry, he's the greatest announcer in professional wrestling history. I have no problem with that.
Tied for the greatest announcer in wrestling history.
Right.
I'm sorry.
The brainless one? Oh, wait.
No,
brain.
No, I mean, Gorilla Monsoon are the greatest announcers of all time, and it's not even close.
Yeah.
The brain was just the greatest mind in wrestling history.
Yeah. All right. Then we had Hangman Page returning to singles competition, going against Kazarian, and these guys put on a heck of a match. But really, the storyline here was the fact that we had your favorite guy, Kenny Omega, on. I think Petey's trying to join you in that. But so Omega, like, he sounds so awkward, especially when he's like, at the end of the match after Page wins, like, oh yeah, I got to get out of here. I'm derping. So he derped, and he left, and JR and Shivani are kind of like going, hey, I think a lot of people would like to see you guys get back together and reestablish something, and obviously, we're going to get a Hangman Page versus Kenny Omega match, and probably the next, I'm going to say next pay-per-view they have. It looks like they're going to continue like a slow burn towards that.
They'll have a final resolution faster than Sasha and Bailey, though.
Well, I mean, that storyline's been going on for, 8 years now?
The storyline's been going on longer than Curtis Axel's been alive in the 2015 Royal Rumble.
True that.
Maybe we should add that to our totals, too. It's been 3,804 days since Sasha Banks and Bailey were supposed to have their final blow-off.
Right. Yeah. All right. So then we had Jake Hager and Chris Jericho going against the Private Party. Obviously, at this point, they're having Jericho and Hager, and they're going to challenge for the AEW Tag Team Championships at some point. They're building this team, and you know what? They're using the demo god to help get Hager over right now. Like, basically until now, Hager's just been like the heavy, not very well utilized. You know, they put him like in the TNT title match about a month or two ago, but overall, they haven't done much with him. So, but you know, it's good that they're doing something with him. But I feel slightly bad for some of the other teams in the division that obviously are going to have to lose, who have been building this division. But you know, and I think having a team like this in the end will actually help
the tag team division.
The tag team division, you know. So
I've been meaning to ask, by the way, is Jake going to see me?
No. Petey said no. So
are you telling me that Sammy Hagar and Jake Hagar are not related?
They're not. They're spelled differently, I believe.
Oh,
for anybody who can't see that, which is basically everybody but us.
Oh God! What is it about dogs being on this podcast and doing things? Almost, Petey.
My dog has a cone on his head right now, and I was letting him out of the room. Let's just say he had a little bit of trouble. He was trying to tune in the direct TV signal.
I was about to say, like, after the show, we're going to plug him into the TV and see if we can get a better signal and see if we can get some shows we don't typically watch.
Yeah. So, all right. So Aiden chiming in. I reckon Moxley will beat Archer at Full Gear, and then we're going to get heel Kenny to show up and behind Mox and recreate the infamous scene
where he pile drove him into the freaking glass table.
Yeah,
that's what I'm guessing.
All right. That's not a bad idea. I love that match that they had. I wouldn't mind seeing it again.
I did too. Fuck Kenny Omega.
Right. So, so that was that. And then we had Thunder Rosa defending the NWA Championship on AEW TV against Ivelisse. So I guess the thing of note here, like Thunder Rosa goes over in the match, but it was clear at a couple of points that they were not happy with each other, and they started allegedly shooting, but definitely super stiff with each other, where it's like apparently Thunder Rosa and Ivelisse have a bit of a history before this, aren't very fond of each other, and there were a couple of points, and clearly where Ivelisse was no-selling some of the stuff that Thunder Rosa was doing, so Thunder Rosa was like going, all right, you're not going to sell, I'm going to kick you and I'm going to punch you.
At least it wasn't as bad as the Great Antonio against Antonio Inoki.
Hey, when you talk about shoot fights in wrestling rings, I mean, that's the one I always bring up. And then there was another one, was the Dirt Bike Kid. I forgot who he went against. I think it was somewhere in Japan. Dirt Bike Kid did something extremely disrespectful to everybody else. I think what he did more or less was like, he was supposed to have a short match and told, don't try to get all your stuff in. What did Dirt Bike Kid do?
Try to get all the stuff in.
And basically, for the end of the match, the guy he was going against put him in a legit chokehold and was like,
I want to say that was also Antonio Inoki.
No, it wasn't. No. Was it? That match was somewhere, it was more recent. But yeah, the ref stopped the match because he was like, oh, this dude's about to kill him.
Oh, it might have been New Jack then.
No, it wasn't New Jack. I believe it was a Japanese wrestler who was not Antonio Inoki. But you know me, I'm a big fan of like things like that to go on. I don't want to see somebody shoot fight and get like hurt, but like it's interesting to me. Like they get so pissed off at each other, they decide that they're really going to fight. So, you know, between that and there's one with Earthquake years ago when WWE had a deal in Japan. There was a match in Japan, and like he and the Japanese wrestler he went against, like they didn't really do too much because like once they realized like going, yeah, I want to beat the hell out of you. They kind of were just kind of circling around each other, and Earthquake at one point is like, come on, like you want to fight, come on, and the dude just ended up just getting himself disqualified and running out of the ring. But stuff like that, I'm always like, dude, shooting on each other. Yeah. Anyway.
Good shit, pal.
So that was Dynamite. I mean, we already talked about the street fight. The street fight got 5 stars from Dave Meltzer. If Kenny Omega was in it, it would have gotten 7.
And it's funny too because like, because this year is because 2020 is such a fucking disaster.
Mm-hmm.
And speaking of disasters, natural disasters are happening. Since you did talk about earthquakes, so kind of a segue here. That once we get to Hurricane, I think it's Wilford. I think it's W.
It is W. I'm wondering if that's because Wilford Brimley. R.I.P.
Once they get done with W, everybody was wondering what was going to happen because we haven't had hurricanes get past W. So we were curious what they were going to do after that. Like, were they going to restart the alphabet? Well, apparently we go into the Greek alphabet. And what is part of the Greek alphabet?
The alpha.
and
the Omega.
And if we get enough hurricanes, we could have Hurricane Omega. And we all know that if there was a Hurricane Omega, then Dave Meltzer is going to give it 5 stars.
Yeah,
It might not be a Category 5, but it's going to get 5 stars.
I might have to do something if we do get a Omega hurricane or an Omega tropical storm, especially if they get the spaghetti model. I have a lot of fun sometimes.
You know, I've been thinking about getting a petition going so that they could change the letter H to Helms, so we could finally get Hurricane Helms. The only reason I would feel bad is if like Hurricane Helms is the most devastating hurricane of all time. I kind of want it to be like a Category nothing, where it does like it just has a bunch of rain and wind, and you know maybe a couple of houses get knocked over, but nobody dies, just because it would be the funniest thing ever. But like I don't want it to be like a catastrophic thing where it takes out like 100 million people or some shit.
Right.
Terrible.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway. That's like everything.
All right, so let's get into our good, bad, and brainless.
All right.
I think we already know where you're going for your good. I'm going to go somewhere different, but I like your good.
But it's got to be that parking lot brawl. It was so freaking awesome. Like, they beat the holy hell out of each other, and I just loved what they did with this. You know, it was even better than, like, I enjoyed the parking lot brawl that, like, Kurt Angle had with Jeff Jarrett during, like, their blood feud in TNA back in the day. Like, it looked like they were legit beating the shit out of each other in the parking lot. The fact that you're taking bumps onto, like, concrete and asphalt, a lot of respect for them back in the day. But the bumps that all 4 guys were taking, the beatings that they obviously took, you could see the welts within, like, 2 minutes of the match starting. Mm-hmm. Fucking loved it. Loved it.
My good for this week goes to the Hurt Business. And it's because the Hurt Business got involved when Retribution came out and was taking out Drew McIntyre and Keith Lee in the main event. And I love the fact that they all came out, and it's like, yes, I get the fact that they're a heel faction. And yes, I understand that it looks like Retribution is probably also going to be a heel faction.
But they want to take out everybody.
But they want to take everybody out. So the fact is that the Hurt Business came out there and defended Monday Night Raw the way that they were supposed to. It's one thing because of the fact that both MVP and Shelton Benjamin are part of the Hurt Business, 2 of my personal favorite guys in WWE.
Yeah.
But the fact is they came out there, and I love heel Bobby Lashley, and obviously Cedric Alexander was my pick for Breakout Star of the Year, I think, in 2017. So the fact that these guys came out there and were willing to fight and help Drew McIntyre and Keith Lee, I'm going to give them my good for this week.
All right. My bad for this week is Ivar's injury. The fact that he is going to have to spend most likely a year plus out of action. I know that wrestling's predetermined, but people who call it fake, try telling that to Ivar right now. Tell him it's fake. Tell his family it's fake. You know, these people go out there, put their bodies on the line to entertain us, but the fact that, you know, he got injured as badly as he did, I'm glad that, you know, he's still going to be able to walk, hopefully be able to get back in the ring, and hopefully make a full recovery. But so that's my bad for this week. And, you know, hopeful for a full recovery. And again, I'll say not speedy recovery, because it's not going to be speedy.
Right.
So that's my bad.
My bad for this week is going to go to Kenny Omega, just because he was just so bad on the AEW announce team. That's all I needed to do. I can't like everybody's love and infatuation for Kenny Omega is just disgusting, and it just makes me want to throw up all over myself. And yes, I get it. He's a really good wrestler. I'm not going to take that away from him. He's a great wrestler. That's all he's got. He doesn't have a character. He's got a dirt face, and he can't cut a promo. I'm sorry, Kenny Omega. You get my bad for this week.
Yeah.
So what is your brainless?
So it's something that we actually have not brought up this week. So everybody knows that Rusev, a.k.a. Miro, is now in AEW.
Yes.
And it seems pretty clear based off of what happened on Monday Night Raw this week that his wife, Lana, is getting retribution. taken out on her by WWE. Basically, Lana was in a match with Nia Jax, and Nia Jax, who hurts everybody, ended up putting Lana with a Samoan drop through a table. It's clear that they're doing this specifically to make Lana pay for what her husband said and done against WWE. It's the petty bullshit that is unnecessary. She didn't do it. Her husband said it. And don't do that. It's fucking bullshit.
And it did the same thing like last year when Jon Moxley went to AEW and everything, and he went on the Jericho podcast and trashed WWE and everything. And if they did something like that to Renee Young, that wouldn't have been. That would be the
but
same.
They can't do it because she's not a wrestler. So
true, but that's the best way I could come up with an example of how it could have happened another way. But I think it is stupid that they are taking it out. Yeah, it's
fucking stupid.
My brainless goes to Vincent Kennedy McMahon. Because
dude, you gotta retire that.
No, I'm not gonna retire that. I'm not retiring that until he retires or dies. Okay?
Until he dies.
So Vince McMahon came out this week and said that two people he is no longer in favor of pushing are Andrade and Aleister Black. Two guys that not too long ago were very high on Vince McMahon's power rankings and how he feels about people. And it's like, dude, you can't keep doing this shit where you flip-flop on people. It's like you either like the person or you don't like the person. Don't, if you like somebody, do something with them. Build them up. Utilize them. I want to know what the fuck it was. Are they going to get the same thing with the Ricochet treatment? Is that why Aleister Black lost to freaking Kevin Owens this week? Mm-hmm. And it's like, they don't deserve it. These are guys that are trying to make a living. And it's like, how are you supposed to build these guys up when you're freaking shitting on them before they have a chance to do something? So that's why Vince gets my brainless for this week.
All right.
I'm not sorry.
All right.
So I think we touched base on everything.
Yeah, I think we did.
So if you like what you've seen, whether you're a first-time watcher or somebody who is a continuous fan, make sure you like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, follow us on Periscope, follow us on Instagram, and subscribe to us on YouTube at the letter T, the letter H, the letter E, the letter F, the letter N, MARKS, the F and Marks. If you like, follow, and subscribe to us, we will do the same back. That has always been our motto.
Yeah. And with the All Elite Marks page, that's where we go live every week. Make sure you set up your notifications so that when we go live, that it will notify you. And it is at facebook.com/All Elite Marks, and there are no spaces in between those words. So, yeah.
And if you set up the notifications, it'll let you know when we are going live. Still like to consider bottom of the fact that we are not All Elite.
Yes, Aiden, WWE really did that to Lana. It's a lot of fucking bullshit. So
it is bullshit, man.
Yeah.
Should be same set of rules for everyone.
So, and we've seen them do petty crap like this in the past. They didn't do it with Renee Young, but they've done it with other people. They did it with Drew McIntyre back in the day. Yep. When Drew was married to Tiffany, Tiffany had some issues, and because she had issues backstage, they then kind of crapped on Drew. And even when she was gone from WWE and Drew and her had divorced, they were still making him pay for what she had done. And it's like, they're not even related anymore.
Right.
What the hell are you doing? But it is what it is. And hopefully, I don't foresee them ever stopping doing this, and it just sucks. So.
Agreed.
Yeah.
The pettiness in WWE is just freaking ridiculous. And it's like, look, Peyton Royce has kind of avoided it because it's like, Sean Spears hasn't gone out and completely blitzed freaking WWE. He just said that there was nothing for him. He kind of handled it the way that you're supposed to handle it with respect. And he's like, there was nothing for me. I pitched ideas to them. They didn't want to do it. So I asked for a release and they gave it to me. He's like, so I had another opportunity and that's why I took it. And I think that's the reason why Peyton Royce has kind of been gotten the exact opposite treatment because now she's going to get pushed in the singles run. So
that's true, Chris. They did do it to Jeff when Matt ended up going to AEW, where they put him in the the stupid drunk storyline.
Yeah.
With Sheamus. So,
Shameful thing, lobster head, a careless man who can wind up dead.
all right. So I think that's it.
Wait. There is one more thing. And the sad part is, even though I said the date earlier, I needed to check it again. Wow. That's because today, on September 19th of 2020, and an astonishing 1,871 days, Epic Mark's Hall of Famer Kyle Saxon is still alive in the 2015 Royal Rumble.
You're not going to do the arm thing?
I think you just want me to do it to see if I actually punch you one of these weeks.
Well, I'm always a little leery of that.
One of these weeks, I got to do Edward 40 hands again so I can prove my chances to freaking Mike Tyson and you.
Right. Well, that would probably have to be when we do like a Friday night show, which Friday night shows are going to be tough for me these days. So,
Yeah?
yeah.
Anywho, for episode 192, I completely forgot what the fuck I was going to say. For episode 192 of the Epic Marks podcast,
I'm Jay.
and clearly I am the brainless one,
And that's Speedy making the noise
make sure you mark out.
with your walkout. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. We'll see you later.